Hello there, welcome to Let's Code. Today is the 6th day of our JavaScript coding series, and today we are going to learn about operators, specifically logical operators. So let's head on into VS Code and take it from there. Okay, so what are logical operators? Logical operators are basically operators used to compare two or more values that result to true or false. So what logical operators does is to compare two conditions, and those conditions should result to either a true or false. So let's look at an example. So let's say we have it's 4 greater than 3. So you see this value is going to result to either a true or false. Then we use the logical operator over here. This is how the syntax goes. And then we need to have another value like it's 5 less than 4. Then we use the logical operators to compare such values. So you can see this is a comparison which is returning the value of either true or false. And then this is a comparison which is going to result to either true or false. Then based on the two answers that you get, you use your logical operator over here. Okay, so now let's continue from there. As you've grasped the concept for logical operators, we are now going to look at the ampersand, the pipe, and the negation. Those are the three logical operators that we have. Let's see what each of these is used for. Okay, so when you take the logical ampersand, that is what it does is it's just as I showed earlier. Let me use an example to help you understand it really well instead of just saying it by mouth. So let's create a variable. Let's say results. Okay, and then what this variable is going to do is that it's going to compare with 4 greater than 3. Let's use the n percent over here, and it's 6 less than 5. Okay, so this is what it's going to do. And then let's do a console log over here. Okay, so what this ampersand is going to do is, after this 4 is greater than 3 value has resolved, which is going to give us is 4 greater than 3, that is going to give us a true. And then this one to execute, which is x6 less than 5, will execute. We know 6 is never less than 5, therefore this one is going to give us false. So therefore the ampersand is going to give us false. What ampersand does is it returns true if both sides give us true, and then it will return a false if either one side of the condition results to false. So what it does is that it compares if this side is true and this side is true as well, and then it will return a true. If one condition is even false, it will return a false. That is what it does. Okay, so if we go to the terminal and then execute our code, forgot to bring the notebook. So you see we are getting an answer of false, and this is because 6 is actually greater than 5. So if we change it over here and we execute our code again, you see we are getting true, and this time it is because each side of the condition is resulting to true. That is why it is returning true over here. Okay, so let's look at example with the pipe. So let's change this to less than. So what it does is that it compares if this side results to true and the other results to false, it returns true. Or if this gives us true and this give us false, it will return true. That is, it checks the condition. If even one of the condition is met, that is, one of the condition is equal to true, it will return true. Okay, so now we do a console log. You can see here, let's go back to the code and check. You can see here 4 is clearly greater than 3, but 6 is greater than 5, not less than. But if we are to do a console log, if we are to do the execution in the terminal, you see we are getting an answer of true. And we are getting this true because one of the condition is true, but it's going to return false if both are not met. Now if we go in and then let me clear the console, let's execute our code. You see we are getting false because both is equal to false. So if one of the condition is equal to true, it should result to true. Okay, so now let's visit the negation. Okay, so let's look at the negation. With the negation, what it does is that if a value is equal to true, it takes the value and then it inverts it. That is, if it's true, it will give you false, and if the value results to false, it will convert it to true. That is what it does. So you can see 4 is greater than 3. So this answer should give us a false. But then if we are to use the not operator, what it's going to do is it's going to convert it. So if we do load main.js, you can see we are getting an answer of true over here, and this is because this answer results to false. Therefore, it is going to convert the answer to true. Okay, so let's also look at the increment and decrement operators. Okay, so let's create a variable, and then name it as count and assign the value 0 to it, or initialize the value 0 to it. Okay, so what the increment and decrement does is they take 1 or add 1. If it's increment, it will add 1. If it's decrement, it will decrease it by 1. Okay, so let's say we have a count of 0, and in each of this, with increment and decrement, we have the pre and then the post decrement. So we are first going to look at an example of pre increment. Okay, so let's say we do a console log, a first console log. Let me comment this out, and then do a console log of plus count. That is the sign for the increment. It's double plus sign. So when we do a pre, what we are doing over here is a pre increment. So if we do the pre increment, and then let's console log count again to see what happens over here. So let's console log count again, and then head on to our terminal. So let me clear the terminal, and then if we are to execute our code, you see we are getting 1 1 and 1 1 because it's pre. So the 1 was added already before heading on to this line. That is why we have 1 over here. But if we are to do the post increment, then we add the plus at the bottom or at the latter part of the variable. So if we do it this way and we have to execute our code, you see we are going to get 0 and 1. and the 0 comes from this line, and then the 1 comes from this line. We are getting the 0 because this is a post, so the value is first console logged before we add 1 to the value, and therefore when we head on to the next line, the value has already been added. That is why we are getting 1 over here, same as the decrement. But what happens is, if we are doing the post decrement, we do double negative sign, and if we do a console log, we should get 0 and -1. And then if we bring it at the beginning, we should get -1 for both answers or both console logs. That will be it for today. Thank you for joining in.